Okay, I just wanted to check and make sure that she did not text me because then I guess that would be a lie, right? But she didn't text me. I texted her Saturday, no answer. And I texted her yesterday when I got back home. Still no answer. So hopefully it's not a bad thing. Hopefully she's just resting. And either she can't access her phone or somebody else got her phone. I don't want to be thinking crazy. So I'll get back to you on that. I spoke to the elder that's not a part of our church. I mean, that's not from our church. I don't even know how to explain that, but there was something that was in my. Oh, I said I wanted to do a story time in reference to when I was in prison. No, I wasn't in prison. I was in jail. I was in, not even jail, I was in bookings, right? And let me see if this is the same time that he released me. What was I in bookings for? Oh, yeah. This was one of my first arrests. I had quite a few arrests, right? And they were mainly in reference. The first arrest was in reference to my children and them going into the system. The other arrests, let me put it that way. The other arrests was mainly about different things that was going on in my life with other people and my involvement with them, as well as my dirt that I was doing. And this just goes to show, I just want to throw this out there, that whatever is done in the dark will be brought to light. And sometimes God allows you to go for years and he does not expose you. He could send warnings to you and you can ignore them. He can allow other people to tell you things down the alley of where he's warning you of or in, and you can choose to ignore it, but something inside lets you know that that's God telling you stuff, right? Or warning you or whatever, excuse me. So this arrest that I'm talking about had to do with some stuff that I was doing, but it was brought to light through my connection with someone else, right? Now, I'm not going to put that person in because that would be considered another story time. So right now, I'm talking about me and my issues, and that led up to God visiting me in the holding cell and him hugging me, right? So the day before, I should say some weeks before this particular thing happened, I guess I'll talk about this. Just give me time to kill time for a little bit. And I was getting warnings and feelings certain things that I needed to do in reference to my house. Not a cleanup per se, but there were mails that was coming to my house that was in other people's names, right? And they didn't live there. So I was getting warnings from God to get rid of those mailings, right? So what I would do is that I would take the mailings, I would take them back, we'll gather them up. That time was only a little bit per se. I would gather them up, take them back downstairs because I live in a managed building. So I would take the mail and put it on top of the mailbox for the okay. I would take the mail and put it on top of the mailbox for the mailman or mail woman to take, right? So every time I would get these mailings, I would send it back. I would put it back. And what would happen is that people would come and take the mail that I took downstairs, because I lived it on the 3rd floor, take downstairs and bring it back up. And sometimes I would be in the house and they would give it back to me. And I would answer the door when they would give it to me. And I would say, no, this is not mine. This is not mine, but it's your apartment. So here's the thing. When you are in a managed building, the mail is given to the apartment. The mailman does not too much pay attention to the name unless the name is on the mailbox. And now I see maybe this is the reason why people will put their names on the mailbox, or the landlord will put their names on the mailbox. When I was living in a private building, the landlord put my name on the mailbox, so that any other mail that will come there, it will be an indication with the name on it to the mail lady or man to take that mail, because it don't belong, right? So in the managed building, they just they just brought the mail, put it in there, and that was it. So it had gotten to the point where I was tired of going and taking the mail and putting it back down, and then somebody was coming. If they didn't give it to me in my hand, they would stick it underneath my door. Be right back. I am feeling kind of hot. I gotta get this fever in. Back up now. 6. Let me get it down before I get to this doctor. Okay, so we're gonna see if the one built away. So now I stopped taking the mail back to the mailbox. So now my room, I had a lot of mail. Now that I'm thinking about it, my floor was covered with mail. So, plus, my own personal mail, So my mail was mixed up with that mail, so it was all scattered all over the place, right? So this particular week, the Lord kept putting in my spirit to clean up the room and get rid of all the mailing, right? Now, I had no idea what was in store for me, but God did, right? And this is what I mean when I say that God will warn you, and if you don't, He'll warn you for you to take heed, but if you don't take heed, then the circumstances that come about is not your fault. Even though you did wrong, but he's trying to help you get out of it. Sometimes it's to get out of it, and sometimes it's just to help you get through it, to lessen, in a sense, your sentence, right? So, I'm not going to say too, well, I got to say, I was going to say, I'm not going to say I'm disobedient, but I got to say I was, because I didn't do it. So this particular day, it was so strong on me that I got up and I said, I'm going to clean up. So I began going through the mail. Instead of just picking up the mail, putting it in the bag and throwing it out, I started going through the mail, throwing away stuff, right? Now, I had like about 1 or 2 bags, give or take, full with mailing. But here's the catch. I didn't get rid of it. I started like early morning, and, me, I guess y'all saw it in y'all can see it in some of my videos. I get distracted, become unfocused, and I don't complete or finish what I started. So I didn't finish that. I had the bags piled up there with all the mail in there. Some was with my mail, with my name, and some of them was names that did not belong to me. So now, I stopped in the course of the night and didn't go back. Said to myself, okay, tomorrow I'll finish it. I woke up, and when I woke up this particular morning, I felt very uneasy. I had this scared feeling about me, and I just couldn't shake it, right? It seemed like, now that I'm talking about it, it seemed like I had that feeling for months, and it will come and go. But then this particular time, it got real strong, right? And it was like a headache. It was like there, just pressing, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is this, right? So I did not know what it was. So this particular morning, I don't know, it seemed like something was just pressing me to go to the window. Let me see. No, not to the window yet. Somebody knocked on my door about 8:45 to about 9 o'clock. I went to the door, and I looked out, and it looked like the mailman. Now, instantly, your instincts kicks in when something is unusual and abnormal than your normal way of living. So the UPS man, the United States Postal Service man, never came to my door. Well, I'm not going to say never. Now I'm thinking about it. They did come to my door, but I wasn't expecting nothing. That's what made it weird. I wasn't expecting nothing, and the person that normally will have things sent to my apartment did not tell me that I was expecting anything. Now, mind you, through the course of the week, I didn't hear nothing from these people, that I normally would hear something from. I didn't hear nothing from them, and, I was like, okay. I just figured it was one of them moments where the person was mad with me and wasn't talking, but I just felt uneasy about them not even talking to me, even though it was normal for them to do that, but it just seemed like it seemed abnormal at that moment. So went on, and I went to the door. I looked through the peephole, and I said, who's in? It was a man, so, no man don't come visit me. So I looked through the peephole, and it was the mailman. So I was like, how can I help you? He said, yes, I have a package for such and such, right? So I was like, I'm sorry, there's no one here by that name. And they was like, you sure? I was like, yes, I'm sure. They said, okay, right? So they went away, right? And I went to the window. When I went to the window, I saw the postal mailbox, one of them short trucks. Um, and it was like maybe about 3 doors or 4 doors down from me. And I saw the person go in the truck, then get out the truck, then go in the truck, but they never went in the back of the truck, and they didn't have no mail in their hand. So I walked away from the mail, from the window, and maybe about 2 or 3 seconds to a minute later, I went back to the window, and the truck was still there. So I thought that kind of weird. Again, the person came, knocked on the door. They came 3 times, right? So we're gonna make the story short. The third time knocked on the door, and they said something about a package again, asking for the person's name. And I said no. And they said, "Ma'am, can you please open the door?" So I was like, "Well, who are you? Can you please open the door, ma'am?" And it was such a authoritative voice that it scared me. So I did open the door. So when I opened up the door, the man pushed in, and all these FBI agents came in. Lord Jesus. And I got extra scared now. That feeling that I had for all them months is now at the surface, and this is what that feeling was about. The warnings that God was giving me, this is what it was about, right? But I didn't quite know what it was for, what they was in my house for. So they said, "Ma'am, do you live here?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." "Do you live here with anybody else?" I said, "I live here with my kids," right? They wanted to know how old my children was. I said, yes. At that time, Danielle, when she was about 6 years old, they had just returned. My kids had just returned back to me. So all the bigger kids was in school, and Danielle, she couldn't have been 6 because she would have started schooling. But I'm trying to think, was she in school? No. She was in school, but she wasn't in school with me. So she had just returned back to me, so she was home. And this was a Monday. And it was Saturday. It was Saturday that the Lord led me to clean up. And I said, I'll do it tomorrow, which was Sunday, of course, I didn't do anything because I went to church. And when I returned back, I said, I'll do it tomorrow, which would have been Monday. So I woke up early to do such, but I didn't get a chance to do it because my day was interrupted by someone knocking on the door. So once they came in, it was about 3 or 4 FBI guys, right? Now, the guy that knocked on the door was the head FBI agent. He was the one that was on the case that was being investigated, right? So he asked me, he put his jacket on because he didn't have his jacket on. When I looked out the door, he didn't have the jacket on. He had a UPS. I keep saying UPS. He had the Postal Service jacket, right? So they came in. They said, as I said, they wanted to know who else lived with me, and I told them. And I had Danielle with me, so I think Danielle was in the room asleep. She was asleep because normally she want to be with me. She'd be underneath me. So during the day, we'll be in the living room or the bedroom, and she'll be with me, right? But she was asleep, so she was in the bed asleep. So she had no idea what was going on. So, and God kept her asleep through all them radios and everything going. She did not wake up. So they went in the back room, which was my room, and they stayed back there for a while. And every now and then, that same man will come back to me and ask me, was that my room? Who lived in that back room? I said, I did. They said, nobody else lived back there? I said, no. So he kept saying, are you sure? And I said, yes. Nobody else lived there in the room. It was just your room. So I was like, yes. So he would leave me and come back. Now, I wasn't catching on. Later on, I found out from someone of the legal told me that he was trying to tell me to say no. If I had said no, that wasn't my room, all they would have did was took that mailing that I had, and they would have just took it from my room, right? But and they would have went on about their business. But because I said that was my room, right? Everything fell on me, right? Even though a lot of activity that was going on back there wasn't so much as me doing it per se, right? So now, okay, let me forward wine, right? I need to hurry up because I gotta get out of here. I probably have to come back to this and finish it. So now, then I got a knock on the door again, and they went open the door, and a woman walked in. A woman police officer walked in. Because right at that time, up to that point, there was nothing but men in my house. So, I don't know. Okay, right. I was in the living room. I stayed in the living room, per se. But I still had the access to walk through the house, right? The last time the man came to me, he asked me the same question again. I said, no, nobody else lives back there. Now, maybe if he had said, do anybody else come back there and use your computer, or anybody else visit you? Do you have any other family members that come and may stay back there? Maybe if you put it that way, then I would have answered it in the perspective of how it was, because there was other family members that did come back there. But he just kept asking me, was that my room? And I kept telling him, yes, it was. So, he said, well, I'm going to need you to stand up. So I stood up, and he said, in that case, you're under arrest. And he read me my rights. And then he said, you do not have no access to walk through the house anymore. You have to stay there. I couldn't even go to the bathroom. So, well, I didn't have to go at the time, but I'm just saying. I think it was brought up, say, if you need to use the restroom, that's why we have officer such and such. That was the purpose of the female, because they had already contacted her and let her know that they was arresting me. So they had to have a female present because I was a female. So if you need to use the restroom, or you need to go in any part of the room or the house, you let officer such and such know, and she will escort you. You understand that? I said, yes, I do. So I sat there, and the craziest thing, I had my hair done, like a weave in my hair. I had gotten all that taken out. I had went to the beauty parlor and got my hair cut and got it permed and stuff. So my hair was my hair, because I did hear stories about when you get locked up, they make you take your hair out your head. And I was not, I don't know, I'm not saying that I thought that at the time, but I mean, I'm not going to say that I thought that they was coming or knew that they was coming. I had an idea they was coming to my house, but that just goes to show how God leads his people, you know, and how God thought of me, even though I wasn't at the place I should have been, and I was not listening and heeding to his words and his warnings. He still was looking out for me, because I took all that out, my hair, and I had my hair washed and straightened, permed, and, you know, looking kind of natural there. Not natural, because I did have my hair permed. Anyway, forward winding to now, we're in the cell. They done took my picture. They had me in a holding cell. Now, the guy, I will come back and tell y'all that full story, but I don't have time to tell it now, so I'll come back. So this will be story time the day that I got arrested, and the next story time will be the day that God, well, actually, this is the day that God visited me and hugged me in the jail cell. I keep saying jail cell, in the holding cell. And the next one will be all continuation of the day I got arrested. So now, once they finished what they was doing, now they're taking me down. So there was a gentleman. He was an officer, a police officer. He was the one that actually arrested me in the house. So coming out of the house, I was put into his hands, right? Yeah, I was put into his hands. So the female officer went with me in the room so that I could get dressed. And believe me, you got to get dressed. I had to get dressed in front of her. That was the purpose of a female. Because if it had been a guy, then he could not have went back there with me. Or if he did go back there with me, he had to turn his back around. So her being a female, hey, I had to take off my shirt, my bra showing. If I didn't have a bra on, she seeing everything, you know. Okay, so forward winding. We get to the cell. No, we going out the house. The guy asks me, that's in charge of me. He's the arresting officer. And he is asking me, is they too tight? You know, I don't want to make them too tight, you know. I said, no, it's okay. It was just so strange how he was so nice to me, right? And we got into the car. He said, are you hungry? He said, we'll stop off at Dunkin' Donuts. We'll get you drink coffee. I was like, yes, I drink coffee. He said, okay, we're going to go get you some coffee. And if you want a donut, we're going to give you a donut. Now, this is my first experience with a police officer, so I'm not really thinking that this is what police officers does. Now, maybe they do. Anybody that went through that procedures know, but it was all brand new to me. So I'm drinking the coffee. They allowed me. I think they brought the handcuffs in front of me, so that way I could, while I was in the car. So upon getting to the precinct, well, it's actually downtown Brooklyn. So upon getting to there, they took me through the back way, and now I'm in the back. They didn't even, he didn't even take me through a place where other people could see me. I was really in the back entrance. He said, I'm gonna take you to the back so that nobody won't see you, nothing. And we're gonna keep you. He said, it's way in the back. He said, but don't worry about it. He said, you know, you're a female and you don't need to be there with those males. And it can be crazy at times. So he took me all the way in the back, wherever it was. It looked like the back of the world, the back of the building, rather. And it was just me and him. And I had to come to this place where the person had to take my fingerprints. And I took the fingerprints and he took me in the back. Yeah, upon arriving, they take your fingerprints. Then you got to go somewhere else where they take your picture. So it took me in the back, and the person that take your picture came back there, right? So it wasn't actually in the room where they take your picture. They took me to a room and he took me to a room, and he contacted the picture person. I'll call him picture person. And that person came and took my picture. Actually, he was the person that took my footprints, my fingerprints and everything. So now, once they finished all of that, he escorted me in the back again. This place was so clean, had the whitest walls you would ever think. It was so uplifting because the atmosphere was very calming, even though it was a holding cell, a holding place. But it was like a room that never was used. And according to what the officer said to me, he said, we very seldom bring anybody back here. And I was saying to myself, it sure enough looked like it, because there wasn't any indication that anybody been back there, been locked up. They had like a desk area there. You could tell that nobody hardly be there. But they took me back there. And during the course of the time, I felt like I was forgotten about. But he will come every now and then through the course of the time that I was there. And he said, don't worry. He said, we just going through paperwork. He said, and then I'll come and get you. Right? He said, okay. So now I'm in this cell, and I'm there by myself. It was a pretty big cell. Nothing was in it but the bench I'm sitting on, but it was big. right? And clean. So I'm sitting there, and then I began to cry, and I began to talk to the Lord, and I'm saved now, right? And this is the beginning of me going down that road of submitment. It was a long road, but this was the beginning. And I began to cry to the Lord and pray to the Lord and talk to the Lord and look up to the ceiling, knowing that He saw me. And I said, Lord, I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, if you would find in your heart, I was talking to him like a man to a woman to a man, rather. If you could find in your heart to forgive me, I will forever be at your debt. I'll forever listen to you, etc., etc. So I'm there, I'm boohooing. They got cameras right in there, so people is looking. So after a while, the guy came back and he was like, "You okay?" Him giving me a tissue let me know that they saw me. So he gave me some tissue and he said, "It's gonna be all right." He said, "Don't worry." He said, "It's gonna be all right." He said, "You gonna be okay." He said, "You gonna be out." There was only but so much he could say because he was the officer on the case. But he was telling me things that, in a roundabout way, that let me know that I was going to be free. I was going to be let go. I'm trying to think, I'm trying to think if it was because of that I went. Okay. I got probation with that one. Okay, well, I'll come back to that. Let me just tell a story. So we went on. I'm in the room. I'm in here by myself, and I'm boohooing, crying. Lord, forgive me, etc., etc. And then I said, I'm like this. I'm saying, Lord, I wish you was human because I need a hug right now. I said, I need a hug from you. I said, I can't take this. I said, this is so much. I said, if you was human, I would hug you. And I'm like deep into crying, like boohooing, like soul crying. And all of a sudden, I felt this presence before me, like standing in front of me. But I couldn't open up my eyes, right? And my eyes is closed, and I'm crying. I mean, like shudder cries, shoulder shudder, like, where my shoulders are shaking, right? And I felt the presence come around me. It was like I could actually feel the arms coming around me and went around me. And then I felt the hand touch me here and the hand touch me here and squeezed me and pulled me forward. And I just lied there and I just leaned forward and I just cried and cried and cried and just cried. And it seemed like as I was crying, it was coming out of me and going into that presence. And then my body started going back and forth. Now, mind you, I could still feel the hand. The presence is still there, but I could still feel the pressure of the hand. And the hand started taking me back and forth. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh, God, I love you. I'm sorry. And it was like the presence was saying, I forgive you. You don't have to say sorry anymore. And I stopped saying sorry and just started rocking me back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I'm still rocking. And after a while, I no longer felt those hands. And after a while, the presence like subsided and went away. And I opened up my eyes. And I looked like this and I looked like that. And I stood up and I looked over there and I said, I looked up at the camera. I said, did y'all see something? Now, let me just say this. After a while that I was there, I fell on my knees in the cell and I began to pray. So I'm not really remembering whether the present came after my prayer or whether I prayed after the presence came. But either way, I did get on my knees and I began to pray and thank God. So it was after. I'm going to say it was after the presence. Because once I realized that I was in the cell by myself and I got a visitation like Paul and Silas got, and Paul got when he got delivered from jail and he saw the angel come, I realized that I went down that lane too. I got a visitation from the Lord. Could have been through an angel. I didn't see the visual sight of who it was or what it was. I just felt the presence, right? So I got on my knees and I began to thank God. I just started thanking God. I lift my hand. Yeah, this is after the presence. So I lift my hands and I was thanking God and praising God and said, Lord, I thank you. And then my tears dried up. That big, heavy feeling that I had was lifted. That feeling that I had for months that I was telling y'all about was lifted. And a joy came in. And I began to hum and sing within, like the Bible says, spiritual songs and making melody in your heart to the Lord. And that's what I was doing. And maybe within an hour or so, they came and got me. And I went through whatever procedures I needed to go through. And I have to think before I have to leave it at and, because I have to go on my memory bank with the help of God and try to remember whether after I left that was I taken to Rikers Island and was released. I think that was the procedures, but I'm going to have to come back to that. Because all the other times that I got locked up, I was in a holding cell and I was let go. I was let go. And each time that I got locked up and I was the officers, it was just some type of miracle. It was a miracle, because miracles are things that are done supernatural, that the human being doesn't have anything to do with it. The human being that's in it, that the miracle is done for. But the miracle is performed by God, and God uses who he chooses to use to perform the miracle for the individual that he's performing it for. So God uses the officers, to take care of me, to look out for me. He used the people in the cell that was with me to protect me, because when you when you get into that type of system, people know whether or not you ever been in there, because they can tell by the way your demeanor and how you act. So even though I had did something I did not supposed to do, and I was mixed up with individuals that I should not had allowed them to do such a thing, to put me into it and put my name into it, put my house into it, put my children involved into it. In so many ways, my children was taken care of. They didn't get into the system per se, but God still delivered me, and he used people within the system to help me. Even that officer he used, because he took care of me. He bought me coffee, he bought me donuts, he took me to a place where, even though I was by myself, he didn't want me to be into any type of prison stuff. He didn't want me to be connected to that type of life. That's what he said. He said, I don't want you to be connected to that, because you're not that type of girl. He said, you got into a situation, which we're going to help you get out. That's what he said. He said, I'm going to help you. He said, my name is such and such, and I'm Officer so-and-so, and if you ever need me for anything, that's what he said. And of course, I forgot about it and all this other stuff. But if you ever have any run into the Lord, remember my name, So, God placed him in my life, and who knows, he could have been the one to help me get out of situation, or I could have been where it would have been worse than that. Okay, so with that being said, I need to get myself ready because I have an appointment, and I am going to get myself. I'm about ready. I just gotta put my shirt on and put my eyebrows on. So I hope that y'all enjoy this video, and I will come back with the rest of it either later on today or another day, or to my memory. If you like these kind of videos, please comment and subscribe. Please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe if you choose to. And may God bless you on this Monday morning. Bye.